Okay. I'm Ella Soper, Senior Consultant at IDP Education, and presenting with me today are my colleagues Sabiha and Coco. Jeff and Dahlia from IDP and the British Council, respectively, will be joining us for the panel Q&A session at the end. I will ask them to introduce themselves in that order. So I'll give it to you, Sabiha, to start.
Thanks, Ella. Delighted to be presenting with you today. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sabiha Khurram, IELTS Account Manager, Eastern Canada at British Council.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Coco. I work for IDP as a Partnership Director. Thank you so much for joining us.
Great. Jeff?
Yes, hello, Jeff Stout, Associate Director for IELTS for IDP here in Canada.
Great. And Dahlia?
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. My name is Dahlia. I'm with the British Council IELTS here based in Toronto.
Great. Thank you all very much. A couple of housekeeping items. We will be doing the Q&A at the end. So please populate the Q&A with your questions as we go along so that we can jump right in for that session. And there will be a recording of the webinar. It's being recorded now. And we will share that after this session. So don't need to take notes unless you're so inclined. Next slide, please. Okay, so the IELTS One Skill Retake provides an equitable option for students who feel they didn't perform to the best of their ability on one section of the assessment on test day. These test takers can opt to retake one skill only: listening, reading, writing, or speaking. The OSR can be requested once per sitting of the full test, and it must be taken within 60 days of sitting the full test. It's available for both academic and general training tests, and it's currently offered via computer in test centers, although it will be available for our paper-based tests in 2024. It is not currently available in the online format. It will be available in testing centers in over 90 countries by the end of this month and will continue to roll out globally into 2024. So why have we introduced this new feature? Well, test takers and stakeholders have long been asking for this solution, and we have listened. The quote here characterizes the feedback we have consistently received from test takers and stakeholders. They say it does not seem practical or logical that applicants need to redo all components of the test if they fail in one area and consistently pass others. Not only is it expensive and frustrating, but it adds unnecessary time and focus on redoing areas that have already been passed. If the deficiency was only in one area, then having the opportunity to undertake a single component will enable a greater level of focus and hopefully success. I want to stress that the One Skill Retake provides an equitable option to a subset of test takers who have already demonstrated proficiency in 3/4 of the IELTS test. It's not for every test taker. And we'll review some specific examples of where the OSR would and would not be recommended in a few moments. I just want to mention, though, that there are many factors that can influence how a test taker performs on test day. Research shows that test day results can vary from test to test for the same skill and can be influenced by a variety of issues, including time management, anxiety, or forces beyond the test taker's control. So we were recently at a conference, the Pi Live conference, and we heard an anecdote about a test taker from Madagascar who was at the testing center when the power cut out 20 minutes before the test was supposed to start. So he jumped on the back of a moped, had a proctor from the nearest test center in the next city on the phone, and was trying to arrange to sit the test in the same sort of testing time window. He did sit the test, but he didn't get the score that he was hoping to achieve, as you might imagine. So for such test takers, it's a frustrating experience to have to resit a full test when only one section requires improvement. On top of that frustration, repeating the full test can be expensive and time-consuming. Next slide, please. So as we all know, the IELTS is a high-stakes English language proficiency test. When it was first developed in the 1980s, the overall composite score was understood to be a broad and representative indication of the test taker's ability. Over time, however, governments and institutions have come to rely on subscores or some combination of composite score and subscore. So an undergraduate admissions office at a Canadian college, for example, might require an overall score of 6.0 with no subscore under 5.5 on the IELTS test. And there is a perception among test takers that this increasing focus on IELTS subscores has increased the stakes involved with potentially disruptive outcomes. Thus, prospective students may feel as though they are increasingly being assessed on their weakest skill rather than on the basis of their overall English language proficiency. And this can have potentially life-altering outcomes or delays in the commencement of their programs of study or professions. So I'm going to walk you through two examples. This is the first of the two. In this example, we have a student called Ramsey who sat the full IELTS test 3 times over a 5-month period with the goal of achieving an overall score of 6.0. You'll note that Ramsey received the same overall score each time. However, the subscores varied. Listening and reading skill scores increased, writing fluctuated, and speaking decreased. We would conclude then that this student has not demonstrated the overall proficiency he or she needed, and they would benefit from further study and IELTS exam prep. Next slide, please. We do offer this type of support. So IELTS has free and paid resources to support test takers like Ramsey, including support for improving English language skills, materials to explain the test format and scoring criteria, and now the One Skill Retake. Next, we'll look at an example of a student who would benefit from a One Skill Retake. So Lee sat the test 3 times within a 2-month period with a goal of a 7.0 and no score less than 7.0. Note that the overall score increased from tests 1 through 2. Subscores varied on each test, but in each of the first 2 sittings, Lee met his goal of a 7.0 subscore on 3 of the 4 skills. He therefore would have been a good candidate for the OSR and could have saved himself the time and stress of preparing for and sitting the entire test 2 times more in order to achieve his final score goals. Next slide. So we hope that you share our conviction that the One Skill Retake offers shared value for prospective students and IELTS-recognizing organizations alike in terms of ensuring the timely acceptance of the broadest range of highly qualified applicants who meet your English language requirements. The next slide will recap some of the features. So the IELTS is the world's most trusted English language test, and with the OSR feature, it's even better. The OSR launched in Australia in December 2022, and by the end of this month, it's expected to be available at test centers in over 90 countries worldwide. 70 organizations in Canada are currently accepting it, and we hope yours will join that list if you haven't already done so. I did want to take a few minutes to talk about the format and timing. So the format and timing of the OSR are the same as for the full exam. The same marking and scoring procedures are used. The same underlying validity, evidence, and checks are in place for the OSR as for the full exam. OSR materials are produced to rigorous test construction guidelines. There is extensive pre-testing and calibration done prior to the release of a new OSR test, and the same reliability measures are used. Test statistics inform the format and content of the test design from a development point of view, and extensive research informs the development of the OSR test as well. Next slide, please. The same security protocols apply to the One Skill Retake as for the full test as well. The OSR is currently only available in official IELTS test centers. It's not available online at this time. It's delivered it's delivered via the same secure platform as is the full test. And test takers are subjected to the same multi-layered security processes as those who sit the full test. And these include, next slide, please, identity capture and management, which involves passport verification, photo ID checks, finger scanning to ensure that if somebody leaves the room, the same person re-enters the room after a bathroom break, for example. In-test security, by this we mean trained invigilators and secure platform delivery. So the computers are locked down and the OSR is the only thing available to the user at the time of the test. There is a pre-release checks on results. So data analysis and statistical analysis is used, there are plagiarism checks, and there are results validation. So that's really validating that the results fall into the standard mean and range of deviation. Results are received through secure results delivery. Once you register to receive them, API integration is also an option if that's something you're interested in. And you can always, and in fact are encouraged, to verify results through the IELTS online results verification service. Test taker action. So we routinely warn test takers through scam alerts against test fraud. And if fraudulent activity is determined to have occurred, this can result in a 2-year global ban for the test taker in question. So I'm going to hand it over to Sabiha now to walk us through understanding results.
Thank you, Ella, for that valuable information. Before I begin, the key thing we want to let you all know is that any system changes that have been done are on IELTS end. So really, there is almost nothing for you to do to accept IELTS One Skill Retake. I am here to let you know how the IELTS One Skill Retake test report form is different from the regular IELTS results that you receive. Next slide, please. Here you see the regular IELTS result, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, and the next to it is the IELTS One Skill Retake result, which I will explain in detail in the next slide. Next slide, please. So this is what the IELTS One Skill Retake result form looks like. All test takers will be issued a new test report form, TRF, once they appear for the One Skill Retake test. If you look at the top right side, you can see there is a box in red, which clearly states that it is a One Skill Retake test report form. In this case, writing skill. The retake is also displayed next to the relevant skill score, which you can see in the middle red box there. A new test report form is issued that I have already explained, but importantly, in the administrator's comments, that is the large box at the bottom of the left with red outline, the test report form number of the original test is mentioned with the date the test was taken and the test center number, test taker's number, and test date of the original test. So if an organization wants to find out about the original 4 skill results, they could simply enter the test report form number from the administrator's comments in the verification portal, and that will provide them with the original result to compare the IELTS One Skill Retake test report if they want. IELTS One Skill Retake is available on computer, as Ella mentioned, so results will be available within 3 to 5 days. Next slide, please. So this is how the result will look like on the IELTS result service, which by now you must be familiar with if you are using electronic delivery of IELTS results at your institution. Organizations like yourself need to opt in to receive One Skill Retake results. There are no system changes, as mentioned before, to verify or receive One Skill Retake test. So as I have said, and you can see here, results are clearly marked as One Skill Retake. The other results will be the same as on the previous result form, which you just saw. And if the previous result form is required, it can be accessed by looking up at the test taker's original test report form number in the administrator's comments at the bottom of the slide in red, as mentioned earlier. Next slide, please. So to summarize, IELTS One Skill Retake was introduced after listening to test takers and stakeholders like yourself feedback. IELTS One Skill Retake, we believe, does provide all the organizations as well as your applicants with more choice and support. It gives the flexibility to achieve your entry requirements and quotas without having to compromise on applicants' quality. So it is the same quality IELTS test with a little bit more flexibility for you but also for the test takers who can now retake just one section of the IELTS test within 60 days of the original test, as Ella mentioned. It is one section of the test for every one full IELTS 4 skills test. The results are clearly indicated as one skill retake test on test report forms, on verification service, and on IELTS result service. So what you need to do is just one thing, and that is to register so that you could verify and receive results. Next slide, please. Here you can see, if you visit IELTS.org and click on the URL you see here, a form appears, and all you have to do is fill in the form and submit it, and you are all set to receive one skill retake results. Next slide, please. What you see here are the universities, professional organizations, and colleges who have already opted in to receive IELTS retake results in Canada. Next slide, please. Here are some more examples of acceptance in Canada. So just to clarify one more time, the key thing to do here is to discuss within your institutions and then go to IELTS.org and click on the URL, which we have already posted in the Q&A section. I hope, Coco, you have posted it. Section to opt in for receiving IELTS One Skill Retake scores. As we have mentioned, dozens of institutions have already opted in Canada and at a number of other places in the world. We would highly recommend you to do not miss out and lose time, as other institutions are taking advantage of this option as we speak now. That is the end of my presentation. It's time for the important Q&A session, which will be conducted by Okokon with the panelists. Over to you, Coco.
Thanks, Sabiha. Thanks a lot. I'll just repeat that if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A, and I'll be keeping an eye on it. We had a few questions come through, so I'll just be asking that, directly to Dahlia and to Jeff at this point. The first one, and if it's okay, if you don't mind me picking on you, Dahlia, I'll just ask you this very first question. Someone wrote and said, we've seen some communication about signing up for an API, and it's left them a bit confused. Could you clarify, can an institution accept the One Skill Retake without any API changes? They want to opt out for APIs, but they want to accept One Skill Retake.
Definitely. So API just makes your life easier if you want to receive scores like e-delivery through your CRM, or if you use a system for admissions at your institution. You do not need to set up an API unless it serves a purpose for you. We do have that option available. So if you're looking into the API connection to receive your IELTS scores, you can connect with us after today. Having said that, you do not need to have an API to receive IELTS One Skill Retake scores. You do have to be on the IELTS Results Service, however, which I believe most of your institutions are on. But if you're not sure, we can also assist you with figuring that out. IELTS Results Service allows you to first receive like the e-delivery of test report forms and to verify as well. If you do get a paper copy, you can also log in and verify a test report form.
Okay, thanks. And then, Jeff, if I can ask you this question, I think it looks a bit like it's from a professional association, and it says our registration committee reviews changes to our language policy. They're a bit hesitant about One Skill Retake. Do you have any helpful data on test taker outcomes so far since you launched the service last year?
Yeah, so we now have over 7,000 test takers that have sat One Skill Retake globally, and would say that if this is of interest with you, please do connect with us. You should have our contact details. We are more than happy to set up a call and go over some of these statistics with you. I think a lot of it will fall within kind of the expectations and the norms that at least we have seen, and I think it would be really helpful for any decisions that you would need to make from your end.
So if I can stick with you, there's another question that's asking about whether it's available globally at this point. Is OSR available to all test takers? Are you currently offering it in Canada? is the question.
So yes, we officially went live with One Skill Retake this week. So on December 4th, we went live with it here in Canada. And in terms of where it's currently available, we are officially live in over 70 countries. And before the end of this month, we will be live in over 90 countries. So very much available on a global scale.
And Dahlia, this one says, how will prospective applicants know if my organization accepts the One Skill Retake? Maybe you answer that first, then I'll ask the follow-up question because there's a second part to it.
Sure. So there's two ways a test taker can verify if the respective institution that they want to send their test score to accepts One Skill Retake. They can go on our respective websites, whether it's like IDP or British Council IELTS, to verify that the recognizing organization has opted in to receive OSR results. And to make it just a second verification for them, when they go through the test taker portal to register for their IELTS test date, they can verify that the recognizing organization also accepts OSR. And just as a small note, you cannot take an OSR until you've completed the full test. So they won't, just to put people at ease, they cannot take the One Skill Retake independent of completing a full 4-skill test. So you will never receive a rogue OSR score from a test taker. It will always be connected to a full test.
Right. That kind of links to this next question where somebody says, a test taker previously took the paper IELTS test and is wondering if he's able to write the One Skill Retake, if he's eligible to take the One Skill Retake.
So that's a great question. Right now, IELTS One Skill Retake is only available for IELTS on computer. They are looking to expand that as IELTS on paper option coming in the coming year. So at this time, it has to be a IELTS on computer test that has been completed for full 4-skill test has been completed on computer, and the test taker can take a retake within 60 days. So there's a time limit as well.
Okay, so Jeff, if I can ask you just, if we can speak a bit more about that, 60-day window. Somebody's asking that how do we counsel test takers to let them know that they have this 60-day window and they may consider the One Skill Retake?
Yeah, so it will be posted at the time of registration. So we try to make the communications as clear as possible for test takers. So information on our websites will make sure that we list that there is the 60-day window. After they complete registration, they will receive confirmation emails that will also note they'll have the opportunity to resit a One Skill Retake test within a 60-day window. And, should they come to one of our physical test centers, or if they are going through counseling with somebody that has familiarity with IELTS, we of course want to be very forthcoming and upfront with whether or not One Skill Retake is going to be a valid option for someone. So, as Ella kind of went over early in the presentation, this is not going to be an option that is a solution for everyone. You would pretty much need to have that overall skill and that overall result to pretty much be there, and really just falling short in that one skill. So if somebody is short of the overall and short in multiple sections, One Skill Retake is not going to be an option for them. And that is something that we would want to counsel any prospective test takers on.
Perfect. And someone asked, would you deter or prohibit completely test takers from the OSR, from sitting the OSR, if they haven't demonstrated proficiency otherwise? So, I think Ella spoke about that in the presentation a little bit, but if somebody was miles away from where they ought to be, how would we deter them, essentially, I guess is what the person is asking.
Yeah, so in this case, again, it would be through that counseling, and really if they did ask the question, we would be very forthcoming that, based on the options that you would need, or based on the admissions criteria that you're looking for, a One Skill Retake test is not going to be the option for you. But with that said, it is an option that is open to anyone. So anyone that sits a full 4 skills test on the IELTS on computer test, this will be an option available to them. So it very much is at the discretion of the test taker whether or not this is something they are going to take.
Okay. There's a question here, which I will just take a quick second to reread it because I'm not sure I understand. But I think the question is asking, after signing up, do we require recognizing organizations to do anything further? So they just go and they register. Do we expect them to do anything further? Can I ask that of you, Dahlia, to answer?
Yeah, so you're saying that a RO has filled out the form that you put the link in the chat. So they filled out that form. And then
Mhm.
what's going to happen is they'll just receive confirmation from our side, from IELTS side, and then you may not see an immediate influx of OSR test results because keep in mind, test takers have to, have that 60-day window. So depending on whether that OSR has been released in their respective countries. So just, you can look forward to getting them over the course of your admission cycle, but perhaps not immediately. So don't be alarmed if you don't see any test scores right away.
That's it. I haven't seen any other questions pop in. So I'll just give one more couple of seconds to see if anybody has any burning questions.
Yeah, so there is a question in the chat about if a test taker takes online IELTS, can they take OSR on paper? Do you want me to answer, or Jeff, would you like to
Yes,
answer?
Jeff, would you like to answer that one?
Absolutely. So similar to the response with the paper option, they would need to take the test in a physical test center. So it would need to be the IELTS on computer test in a physical test center in order to be eligible for One Skill Retake. So as of right now, if they do take a test on paper or if they do take the IELTS online test, they would not be eligible for One Skill Retake. But again, those are options that are likely to come down the road, just not at the start.
Just in terms of next steps, Dahlia, a question has come in, and I think this is a university asking if we would prefer them to also advertise that they accept One Skill Retake in their communication. I guess that's almost like a no-brainer in a way.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, to the benefit of your test takers, we all know that for university admissions, already a high stress time, and test takers are, getting their applications ready, collecting their documents, they have their exams. And so we highly recommend to make it easier for the test taker, to remove a little bit of the burden on them to advertise on your website that you do accept. First of all, to make sure that they know you accept IELTS and what your IELTS score is. And then in addition to that, and the different formats that you accept with paper, computer, IELTS online, it would be even better. And then to recognize that you also accept One Skill Retake. So it will just give that little bit of, calm and reassurance to your test takers and your potential applicants so that they can see that knowledge pretty quickly on your respective website.
Right. So, Jeff, I think this is one last question about, it's not necessarily One Skill Retake, but the IELTS results service and signing up. I think it's the same link, right? Could you just speak to some of the advantages of having, the schools and institutions sign up for the results service?
Yeah, so I mean, you would need to be on the IELTS results service in order to receive IELTS One Skill Retake results. So that would be, of course, number one. But really, one of the biggest benefits to the IELTS results service over what we previously offered is that it's very much a one-stop shop in not only receiving results, but verifying results. So you don't need to go to a separate site in order to verify results. Everything is in one location, really user-friendly, really easy to read. It's a really, a great service. And I know there's a lot of you that are already on the call that are actively using the IELTS results service and verifying those results. And we'll always continue to advocate to do that. It's really how you play your, a very important role in making sure that the test is secure and that you're receiving genuine and valid IELTS results.
I see a question here, OSR to be accepted by immigration, federal or provincial, and I would probably leave this to you, Jeff, and see if Dahlia has something to add when you're done.
Yeah, not a problem. So it is actually something that is currently being piloted by IRCC, specifically for the Economic Mobility Pathway Pilot. We do know that they are currently reviewing it. The strong likelihood is that IRCC will eventually accept it. especially because we have 3 of the 4 immigration authorities that accept the full IELTS test are now formally accepting One Skill Retake. So you have Department of Home Affairs in Australia, UK Visa and Immigration, and then announced just formally this week is Immigration New Zealand. So it seems like IRCC is just the last domino to fall.
Talia? Oh, yeah, she's good. Okay, I don't think, have I missed any? What about provincial programs, Talia? So I think the question
Sorry,
is
is that regarding immigration for like
immigration now for provincial,
okay.
nomination
Yeah,
and things like that.
so that's again the same question that we cannot answer fully just yet because we've been in consultation with IRCC both at the federal level and then, as you probably know, it's a trickle down effect. Once it's launched federally, then it will be launched provincially for the individual provincial programs. And as you know, majority of test takers for these types of programs are general training. So the goal is to eventually have One Skill Retake available for just a blanket for immigration purposes or provincial, federal or provincial options. So stay tuned. That's something that we're hoping to launch and announce in the coming year. And so that we can kind of just, again, remove that test taker burden, reduce the amount of time folks that are trying to, meet the requirements for immigration or employment as well. We're really hoping to facilitate that with One Skill Retake in the coming year.
Perfect. Someone is asking about Philippines or Mexico yet. Do we have OSL launch in those countries? Do you want to just talk about the key countries that are already, they have OSL programs, Jeff?
Yeah, Philippines for sure has it. Mexico, I can't say for certain. The strong likelihood is yes. I mean, when you're talking 70 to 90 countries, Mexico would be a strong likelihood to be available. I don't have the notes in front of me, admittedly, right now, but I'm pretty certain that by the end of this month, Mexico will be included in that list.
How many countries do you expect by the end of this month to have OSL available?
Over 90.
Perfect. So India, China, most of the, okay. Perfect.
India is definitely on already. So India went live in September, I believe.
Okay.
And China will be early in the new year, like end of winter.
Okay. I don't see any further questions, so I'll just probably thank you both and hand it over to Ella to wrap things up. Ella?
Thanks, Coco. Thanks, everybody, for your participation and for the great questions that you asked. You'll see our contact information here on the slide in front of you. Many of you will have already been in touch with one or the other, or perhaps all of us. I want to reiterate that we're here to assist in any way with the conversations you may be having internally with your teams. We're always happy to schedule a tailored session for any interested stakeholders at your organization. So if there are questions, we're happy to take them up together in real time. And again, we will be sending a copy of the webinar recording to everyone. We will be including the registration link, and you'll have all of our contact information. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions or if there's anything we can do to assist in your decision to accept the One Skill Retake. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.